look at get going.
Hoping for a clean start, Sean, so it looks like it's going to be nice and clean and no rain. So the guys are going to go out and have some great fun, I'm sure of that.
Certainly hope so. And they're off going. Chris has got a reasonable start. Phil's got a good launch in the MGF. Got up alongside John there in the MGZS. Oh, he's throwing it up the inside. It's a big battle into turn 1, 3 deep. Who's going to come out first? Let's see.
Yep, Phil's certainly got away very, very well.
Phil's done well there. Nice variety of cars here this weekend as John puts the pressure on, and a nice little midget, Mike Trathen and the other midget there finding their way through. Gary Buller fighting off Tony Volibert there, I believe it is. And there's Trevor Dunford in the MGF going around turn 4, following closely up behind Barry Pritchett. As Barry creeps up into the back of Tony Volibert to put a bit of pressure on, and back up the front. Oh, we got the nice little midget of John, D. Bartley, yes, who's up in the pointy end, followed closely by Phil in the MGF. He's doing well in an MGF there, Phil. Getting that thing around here pretty quickly.
As we all know, he's certainly used to driving the V8 around here, but he's certainly pushing that little MGF up to the front of the field, which is great to see.
Well, it's definitely where he's used to being, in the top 2 or 3, isn't it?
That's it. And look at the 3 ZRs going around there.
Oh, you can throw a blanket over him, couldn't you? Look at him go. It's like it's racing back in the UK with this. Sensational historic racing.
And we've still got a good mixture of cars in the field, so which is great to see. And don't forget, we've also got our British invited friends that come along too and join in with MG Racing. It's very important that we get those cars out there as well. So,
while we're finishing up this first lap, I'll take a quick moment to mention a few of our category sponsors: Yarra Valley Towing, Monty Power, huge sponsor of Wolfchester, Australia, Splat Engineering, great sponsor of Buller & Motors, who've been with us for many years, and a great sponsor there, Hobson Stores in Sandringham.
And thanks for that, Sean. So I actually am the publican of the Hobson Stores, and I actually do some racing when I can. And this weekend on Saturday, I've managed to pull away and come up for the weekend and see all the boys and ladies that are racing. So it's great to see.
We're just seeing Rod Wells here in the Sebring Midget with the K-Series, and it's slowly winding his way through the field. Bit of a favoured track for the light little midget. I'd hate to think how light that is, how many under 600 kilos it is. Nice lightweight motor. He's slowly winding his way through the field, trying to track down Alana in the big V8 Stag at the moment as she enters the sweeper.
And the best part about MG Racing is that even doesn't matter where you are in the field, you're going to have a good go. So
that's right.
You can even see David Vernal up in the ZR.
He looks busy fighting off Gordon Bunyan in the Spitfire there. As Gordon throws it up the inside into the cleavage. And David just comes out in front. Well driven. Now Gordon and David Vernal here in that grey ZR with the green stripe, bit similar to the Sebring Midget colour scheme. David Vernal, who you may have heard, does a lot of officiating, and it's just great to see him out on track having a blast, having an absolute ball, getting absolutely stuck into the ZR. Being a front-wheel drive, they're not the easiest things to drive, I believe, Andrew. I believe you've got a ZR but tucked away somewhere.
Yeah, I have, Sean, that's it. Yeah. Went from a rear-wheel drive to a front-wheel drive. They are a little bit different. The main thing is the brain tells you to back off, but the foot should always stay flat to the fore.
And we've just seen Barry Pritchett take over John Illingsworth there in the ZS. Barry's been racing with us many years. He's jumped in and out of MGs and back into the Triumph this weekend to have a bit of fun up here at Winton. A nice little battle here between the ZRs again. I think we've got Jason Holmes leading the 3-pack there. And Chris Gidney in the middle. Sorry, I do apologise. They look so similar. That's Jason Holmes just there behind the 2. As Chris goes for a bit of a launch into Tony, who's going to come out better here?
They're certainly racing up close, which is great to see.
You'd fit a cigarette paper in between those two, wouldn't you? Look, they know themselves and they know how to drive together. Good to see. We've got Barry putting a bit of pressure on the ZRs here. Bit of old technology putting a bit of pressure onto the modern boys. Very good to see. Chris is just walking away from these two now in his nice little 160 ZR. back to 160 spec that ZR. It come from England, and there's 3 or 4 classes I believe they run in England in these modern MGs. They run a 160 spec, 190 spec, and I believe they have an open spec, which is even more worked again engine-wise and gearbox-wise.
And Chester's still doing a good job up in front, in front of the freight train of ZRs behind him, so that's good to see.
Trying to keep them behind him, I bet. He's got them all in their mirrors, that's for sure. There's a nice little battle going on here. As Jason Holmes puts a bit of pressure on Tony Voliber and down the back straight. Now it looks like Tony's just got the legs with a bit of power there as they come round and make their way onto the front straight. Chris Kidney putting a huge amount of pressure on Phil Chester now. We'll see if he can hold him off for as long as possible. We've got a fairly big race here today, this beautiful Saturday afternoon. 12 laps. We've got 9 laps remaining as it stands. As Chris goes up the inside of Jason. Excuse me, as Phil Chester.
Yep.
Who's going to come out of that? Oh, Chris has made it through. Beautiful bit of driving there. And again, great different dynamics of vehicles. Again, you've got a front-wheel drive with fighting a mid-mount similar spec engine in the sense, but again, completely different car to drive and completely different characteristics of the way they handle and make their lap times.
And once again, the important thing is MG racing. It's all safety fast, tight racing, no matter where you are in the field.
Yeah, as we see here, we've got a beautiful lightweight midget holding off a big V8 Stag and a very highly spec 4-cylinder MG Beast. The diversity of these guys is unbelievable. And again, look how closely they're racing.
And he's on the other side too.
As Mike Trathen just walks away from them in his little midget. Gary's been developing that car over the last sort of 12 months. The 3 years thereabouts, getting it to where it is here today. There you just see the power of the Stag wind its way down the back straight into the braking area, but Mike Trathen in his midget's just got weight on his side in the braking area.
Yeah, he's certainly got that little blue midget sorted. It really does perform.
Oh, it hums along, doesn't it? We'll see what happens here down the front straight. Nice big long straight. The V8 should come into its own. Nice inside line. Beautiful gentleman driver. Oh no, Mike Trathen's thrown it in real deep and kept it in front. That's great. Almost David and Goliath moment, this.
That's it.
He'd be pedaling the thing out of this, I'll tell you what.
There we go. I think he's going to have a crack up the inside.
Is he going to make it stick?
Yep.
Looks like it.
Yeah, I think so. He's got the power to keep it going.
We're into the windy bits now. I reckon we'll see how they go through the sweeper here, and it might be some very interesting racing. As the V8 just walks away very slightly from the midget. We have got a little bit of moisture and precipitation about at this stage with 8 laps remaining. This could be very interesting to see how this evolves, this race. Fairly typical of MGs. Usually it starts raining when they're on the dummy grid with everyone on slicks and their dry weather tyres. We got Gary Bulmer having to go around the outside of Mike Trathen there. That'll be a good move if you can make it stick up to the inside. Oh, that's some sensational driving. Look at that. Well done, Gary.
Nice and smooth. Away he goes. Look at that. Beautiful. So we don't know how many are actually on slicks. But, yep, a little bit of a moment.
Yep, lots of little things going on there. Again, the weight of the
with a bit more rain.
Oh, it's definitely showing signs. Is it going to wet the track enough to make a difference for these guys? Time will tell.
Well, there's always debate in the pits about whether we put wets or slicks on, or someone's gone around. That was
Keith Ongardachi in the big Stag. Power just got the better of him there in the exit of 10 or 11, and he's not quite bogged. He's got it going. That's great.
He's probably definitely on slicks, so
I would say so. That'll be an interesting drive for the next 7 laps for him. As Tony and Chris come round onto the front straight. Now I believe Tony's on slicks there, and I think you'll find Jason's on a bit of an intermediate tyre, I believe. So we'll see what happens into here, into turn 1. There's definitely a bit of moisture on that line now. As Tony throws it up the inside of Keith, takes turn 1.
Well, this is it's not a sprint anymore. It's turning into a bit of a long distance for 12 laps.
Borderline endurance for us guys.
Borderline endurance, that's right, with the MGs. And obviously with the bit more wet weather, it's going to make it even more interesting. So we'll see what happens to the field.
Yeah, a bit of rain about, but it has almost eased again. But see how this evolves.
Sun's out one side, raining on the other.
Up the pointy end, we've got Mr. Bartley out the front still in his beautifully presented midget, closely followed by Gary Bulmer, who passed Mike Trathen earlier, doing very well for themselves. Again, in a sort of small, light, fairly well-powered car around Winton here, you can get away with walking away from some of the faster cars, can't you?
Yeah, that's it. And this weekend, unfortunately, we are missing a few of the traditional V8s that normally run with our field, but just for various reasons. But it's good to see that there's still a good field and a good selection of MGs out there and invited British vehicles.
Especially a ZS, as we can see on screen. In Australia, these were quite a rare MG. There was only 40 odd that were ever brought into the country by MG. And as again, this is an Australian delivered car that's been beautifully presented into a nice little race car. And yeah, it's just nice to have a bit of diversity out there, as you say. Unfortunately, John Stevenson, who I mentioned earlier, who was meant to be on the grid, he runs a TC from 1949, I believe.
That's
and so, as John just has a little foot off there and recollects himself.
It's always the way you word someone up and away it goes. So.
There's definitely a bit of wet track there now.
Yeah, this will be interesting too here now, perhaps.
Oh, Jason has a look into Keith, but not quite. Pulls out the last minute.
I think he shut the door on him, so he can't get through. Pressure will be on turn 2. Some of the boys got their wipers going.
Look, chatting to Keith there with this big engine he's got, it's about a 5-litre Rover V8 that he runs in that big Stag, and by the sounds of things, it's a bit of an animal even in the dry. So put a bit of precipitation out there, and I reckon he'd be a busy boy steering that thing around those little 4-cylinder front-wheel drives. So he'd be in a bit of a stressful spot, I'd say, as Jason puts a little bit more pressure on and goes for a bit of a nice line round into the cleavage.
It wouldn't be an easy car to drive, I don't think.
Oh, no. But God, it looks good, doesn't it? The big wide flares, big black tyres. It's a well-presented car. Looks as mean as it goes. Well, as John Zillingsworth starts to put a bit of pressure onto Chris Gidney here in the ZS.
Hello. We've got a little midget that's starting to pull over as well.
No, that's not great news for either of us, unfortunately. John's been battling a few minor issues this weekend, getting back out on track and trying to sort the car out while remembering how to drive has been a bit of a challenge, unfortunately. So, look, hopefully we can get it sorted for tomorrow and get back out in the race too.
Yeah, it's always a bit tough after a bit of a hiatus to come back in and start competing again. So,
oh, look, John's done a huge amount of work recently mechanically, I believe. You've been involved as well. And yeah, huge rebuild on the cars as the rain really starts to set in here on that front straight.
Yeah, this is going to slow the field up a bit.
Oh, that V8's really struggling now. Jason Holmes all over the back of Keith Ondarchi in this Stag. See if you can get it into turn 3 and under brakes. Not quite.
Keith hasn't got his wipers on yet, so...
Jason Holmes is actually a very experienced driver in these sort of vehicles. He's raced various front-wheel drive, overpowered, underpowered vehicles in the UK, Tomcats and Rover Tomcats and the like. Came out here probably 15, 20 odd years ago and brought a few MGs with him and got involved with MG racing and basically hasn't turned back since. So
that's it.
It's good to see him.
And being a Pom, he enjoys the wet.
Well, he'd be in his element, I'd say, right now in this sort of weather as he takes Keith up the inside into the cleavage and John follows nicely. Keith's even let Barry Pritchett through. It certainly is. As they come onto the front straight, it's that rain's really quite heavy, and we're not seeing any rain up here in the old front straight.
Yeah. We've still got 5 laps remaining, Sean, so it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, some of these older things, I reckon, after about the 7 or 8 lap mark, they tend to get a bit tired and get a bit fatigued and some brake.
So we've had three retirements, is that right?
We have. Unfortunately, Rod Wells has had to pull out as well by the seams of things. And Chris Gidney, who was running up quite well earlier. He was up into, I think, 3rd or 4th for a period. He's had to pull out, unfortunately. Looks like Alana's got going again by some strains.
Yeah, that circuit's starting to look pretty wet.
Looks
in areas.
nice and slick there now down that front straight, doesn't it? As Keith tries to round up Barry in the TR7. And these two ZRs having a bit of fun together as always. Tony and Jason there. Very difficult to pick the difference between the two, but there's usually a big difference in power. Down Sandown and Phillip Island, Tony tends to walk away a little bit with a bit of extra power, as that's a slightly higher spec car. And they're starting to give Mike Trathen a little bit of trouble there. With 4 laps remaining, see if they can push through during these weathers. There's a beautifully presented LE 500, which is a very rare MG these days. Again, originally built by Dreadnought Garage in the UK, made its way out here and been through a few owners. Bruce Asprey owns this one now, and beautifully presented with the Jayco livery. And looks like Phil might be having an issue there. That's unfortunate for Phil. He was doing very well there. And again, there you go. Tony Volibrant's got past Mike Trathen in the midget, and again, Tony's on not brand new slicks, that's for sure. So he's doing very well considering the conditions. As Jason tries to go around the outside of Mike as they come onto the back straight.
Yeah, I think a bit of water on the track certainly makes it a little bit different for the cars to drive.
Oh, I bet it would. And again, keeping that temperature in the tyres with this sort of conditions, that definitely makes it hard. We're down to 3 laps remaining now as these guys come through to finish their lap. As the track gets wetter and wetter.
He's hanging in there in that little midget.
Oh, is he what? Again, I think you'll find Mike Trathen's on slicks and...
no, that'd explain it.
Yeah, he'd be dropping back a few seconds a lap, unfortunately, with that one as they come into turn 1.
The ZR's got its wiper going, so... It still must be pretty wet.
Look, they've probably got the heater on in those things, and the demister and the
it.
radio
All
blaring.
the luxuries.
And, why not, hey?
Little MGB Roadster there, looks fantastic going past.
That's Chris Ralph's beautifully presented MGB. There's not a scratch or stone chip on that thing. It's presented sensationally. Aside from how well it goes mechanically and the speed they're getting out of that Group S spec car, it is very well presented.
There we go. Phil's coming back through.
Yeah, beautiful. Goes up the inside of Bruce into turn 1, holds onto it through turn 2. There's a lot more power out of that LE 500, a much higher spec car in the yellow car. They're both very similar chassis but completely different animals when it comes down to the mechanicals. As Phil puts a bit of pressure on.
Bruce is still keeping it consistent though, so that's good to see.
Phil's dropped back a little bit as they come into the sweeper. He'll be on it through here though. He's a very good steerer. Phil's got a lot of finesse, probably from the V8 days and from his Formula 4 days. Being that these are mid-mount, they're a bit of an animal at times. They can bite you, but he's a very smooth driver. Phil gets it round these windy bits very quickly.
So we've got 2 laps remaining.
Bruce Asprey putting a bit of pressure onto Chris Ralph here in the MGB. I'll see if he can wind it round and take a manoeuvre up the back straight. He'll slowly wind him in here. Will he make a move under brakes? And it looks like he will.
He's going to have a go.
Good on him. Good to get it done. That's some good driving. Nice clean driving there by the both of them.
Beautiful.
Well done. Yeah. On our second last lap now as they come through to take the checkered flag, closely followed by Phil Chester in the F. And Bruce just seems to walk away with that thing nowadays. Back with Tony Volibrant and Jason Holmes. As Jason puts a huge amount of pressure on Tony through the cleavage. He'll push till the race is done. Jason will. He won't no holding back. He'll take no prisoners. Two peas in a pod, these two. If they were green, they would be definitely 2 peas in a pod. They're almost from the same garage, these things.
And once again, good close racing by both of them, so it's good to see.
As we come into our last lap, Dean Bartley leading the race here with
He's
Gary
going to put the pressure on him now.
Oh, Jason, get into it. Oh, he'll push him wide, push him to the inside.
Up on the rev limiter on that one.
Oh, he'll be pushing hard, I'll tell you that much. So a little bit of insider information. Jason used to own both of these cars for a period, so he'd feel like he's almost racing himself there as he lets Tony through the inside into turn 1. Tony will walk away a little bit as it's a bit higher spec car there, but Jason will stick right with him. He'll be driving the wheels off this thing. Oh, brilliant racing between these two. Now this is a race for third, basically, as we see. Jason Holmes is in third position, very, very closely. Excuse me, no, that's not correct. I lie. That is Tony Vollerbrin in third, and Jason Holmes is actually fourth. But the fight for third continues. Coming around the cleavage on their last lap, Jason might get an advantage here, or possibly not. He may be disadvantaged. Passing Jim Dodd there in the nice green ZR. As they come onto the back straight, Jason's got a reasonable line through there. Not quite able to stick with Tony at the exit. As Dean comes onto the front straight, if he lets this through, he'll grab first, and he does.
Well done.
Well done, Mr. Bartley. You are a sensational driver in that little midget.
Beautiful.
Closely followed by Gary Bulmer, who'll take second.
And here we go. Here's the fight for third.
Here's the race for third. Can Jason do anything at this point?
Across the start line. No, I think he's not going to get there.
Well, he'll give it a go.
He's going to go up the inside.
Almost passed next to each other. Look at that. Great driving, boys. Well done. Headlights were on. He was putting the pressure, that was for sure. Looks like John Illingsworth's going to come through in the ZR and take fifth, which is pretty cool. That's actually his first proper MG race meeting this weekend.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's a good addition to the grid, John. He's a really positive bloke and loves his racing. Barry Pritchett brings home 7th, closely followed by Keith Ondarchi in number 8 as he overtakes his daughter on the start-finish line. The pair of stags, that'll be a good photo. Mum, come on. As Bruce Asprey comes round onto the front straight, he'll take out number 9.
I think Keith did the decent thing and backed off a little bit and let his daughter across.
You think?
Yeah.
They look like they come from the same family, those two.
Yeah.
We've got Chris Ralph bringing home number 10, Phil Chester in 11 in his MGF, and David Vernal there in the nice ZR in number 12. As Gary Bunyan comes around and takes out number 13 there, we'll have Trevor Dunford, who's a little behind there, a little bit further behind there, bring home 14.
Okay, thank you.
Look, it's been a nice long race for us. We requested a reasonably long race this weekend. We've only got the one race today and the one race tomorrow. 12 laps today, 9 laps tomorrow. It's been a bit of a stint for some of these guys, not used to doing that many laps, even around Winton. And I think we will find they've had an absolute ball for the guys that have finished.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Great.
Huge thank you to Winton Motor Raceway for putting on the event and VHRR for organising it.
And to our race sponsor, which was Hobart Sporting Car Club.
Indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. We'll hand it back over.
Thanks, Sean. I'll go back to pulling beers.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannon's,
We've also got Shannon's Home and Contents cover,
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be
Shannon's.
Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
We all agree now is the right time to start making choices to support Aussie businesses, supporting Aussie families and communities. Well, from their humble beginnings in Melbourne nearly 100 years ago, Penrite now sit as a truly respected global lubricants brand across automotive and industry. And the best bit, it's still 100% owned by an Aussie family that employs Australians in Australian factories right here on Aussie dirt.